Right. Hi everyone, my name's Jo. I'll be hosting the meeting today. So this is the first DCHC Sharing Best Practice meeting of 2021. So thank you for coming and for taking time out of your really busy schedules, because I know we've all got an awful lot going on at the moment. So we've noticed obviously on the WhatsApp group that there is a lot of talk around the LFT testing, and that seems to be quite a relevant topic at the moment. We were hoping to have someone from Public Health England, but unfortunately they couldn't attend. So we would like to sort of see what everyone's doing and where you're at with the testing. And although we can't offer advice as such, it's always good to see how everyone else is managing and interpreting the guidance. So we would very much like this to be sort of sharing what you're doing and seeing if we can pick up any tips and see where we go from there. So does anyone want to start? Anyone?
There's a
Don't be shy,
Jo. I think what I've seen is there's quite a lot of questions on the WhatsApp around testing uploads and whether there's bulk uploads and whether it's changed. And I'm certainly not clear. I don't know if there's anybody else on the forum that is clear about actually what is the most efficient way of doing it at the moment, and do we know whether there is a bulk upload that's going to happen. So do we have any upload test gurus?
I was told on a webinar this morning that the spreadsheet upload will not be available till mid-February.
Wow.
Really helpful.
Oh, okay, thanks, Ellie. That's helpful to know.
Can I ask whether
questions I had is, sorry,
I was just going to ask whether anybody is actually asking their own staff to do the uploads themselves, or whether there's a member of the team that's been sort of designated the task, and whether that's the most efficient system or not.
So what we're doing,
does anybody have any ideas as to which is the better way?
Yeah, at Hillbrow we're getting the staff to register their own. We just didn't have the space or the manpower to have someone, because it has to be registered within 24 hours. So yeah, and we've been doing that for the last week, and it's working quite well.
Yeah, I've done exactly. Hi everyone. I've done exactly the same thing, because obviously we're only a small home. I've got 13 clients, 19 staff. But if I took on the responsibility, I'd have to come back for when the night staff come in, because really you want the results in the first hour, so you can send them home if they're positive. So we've just put another iPad in place, and then we actually take a photograph on the iPad of the test results as well. Just so you've got a backup, because obviously you are giving them a level of responsibility that they might not all want. So we just let them photograph it, and then they put the information in.
Yeah. Is anybody sending tests home, so those staff that are not on at the right time?
Yes, we are. And that again,
that's working too.
Yeah, we've done our own in-house training. We had a few nominated staff that had done the online training. And then they have subsequently trained the staff how to, I mean, a lot of them have been testing now for long enough to know how to do it, but basically on how to interpret the results and register their test. So for us, it's working, but I understand, bigger homes, it might be more difficult.
Robin's really polite. He's put his hand up.
Oh my goodness.
Well, firstly, I was going to congratulate Nick on the fine collection of shirts that he had hanging in the background there. And secondly, I was just going to ask, have we had sort of clarification on the ability for staff to take LFDs home, carry out the test at home, and then return with the LFDs? I know there was quite a bit of uncertainty whether they were or weren't allowed to do this. My understanding is that we have received confirmation, but I haven't seen any sort of guidance issued on this yet. So I just wanted to ask if anyone else had got a bit of certainty yet on this matter. Thank you.
Can I take that one, Robin? Can you hear me okay? I'm on mute.
Yeah.
All right. I sent out a little bit of a script by email to steering group, directors, what have you, and posted it on the WhatsApp group this morning. I realise there's a lot of garbage to wade through, but to save wading through that, it's so there is allegedly the MRHA, whichever it was, it agreed to care staff doing home testing a couple of weeks ago, but that was in principle, and you're right, no guidance has come out. There has been guidance that says that members of the public can do tests at home themselves, but that doesn't, that allegedly does not include care staff. And the latest thing, which is a bit of a nonsense, the latest thinking this morning, according to the Department of Health and Social Care, is that they are hesitating because they're creating a framework whereby there is a kind of a system of control for notification, and also that the training is way better than the training that currently exists. And they're requiring us to be trained to a higher level for whatever reason, good or bad. And so that's supposed to be sanctioned next week with some more stuff about training that has to be done in social care, and the reporting of the outcome mechanism, because allegedly they have in the NHS, they have these systems, but it is being considered or decided, rightly or wrongly, that the training that the NHS staff use is not good enough for social care staff. So read into that what you will, but that's all I know.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay.
The other thing, I'm not sure how many people went to the care home forum yesterday, but it was announced that there's going to be this additional funding for the LFD testing, and I think Nicola mentioned that it was roughly around £250 a bed. I think those were the figures that were that they were estimating. So I'm guessing we will find out a bit more about that in the coming weeks. I know a lot of people are saying it's not so much the funding, it's finding more hours in the day to actually do it, which I know a lot of us are struggling with at the moment.
What I wasn't clear about, Joe, is for how long that funding is supposed to last. I mean, is that forever, or is it till the end of March? Or, I mean, I can see that being it costing way more, but it depends what period we've got to use that money in, and so that, because there's a bit of an unknown until the details come out. But it's supposed to be rolled out by the end of the month.
Yeah, I think.
I understand.
I think it was by the end of it had to be spent by the end of March.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else would like to contribute towards what they're doing for LFD testing and how they're managing in their home?
Eddie's got his
Can
hand up.
Can I just say, we've had the grant letter from Somerset for this monies, and the period of the grant is from the 2nd of December to the 31st of March. And you can claim from the 2nd of December. The grant conditions basically and I read from it, if that's okay for people. Is paying staff cost associated with training and carrying out lateral flow device testing, including time taken to attend webinar competency assessment, explain the full FD testing process to those being tested, ensuring that they understand all other infection prevention control measures, ensure that LFD tests are completed properly, including overseeing self-swabbing processing test logging results, wait for results if staff are coming in to undertake tests on site prior to their shift. For those care homes that can undertake indoor close contact visiting, welcoming visitors, gaining consent, overseeing personal protective equipment, costs associated with recruiting staff to facilitate increased testing, costs associated with the creation of a separate testing area where staff and visitors can be tested and wait for the result. This includes the cost of reduced occupancy, where this is required to convert a bedroom into a testing area, but only if this is the only option available, and costs associated with the disposal of the LFS and equipment. Come to quite a bit. I'm noticing about the disposal of the LFDs, and some of the waste disposal companies are coming back and telling us that we've got to buy special clear white bags, clear bags, and that will be an additional cost. I don't know whether other people have experienced that, but it looks like we could use the fund for that. I hope that helps. That was Somerset.
That was very, very helpful.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, if I can jump in, Joe, and just comment. Thanks for that info, Eddie. I mean, I've just done a very quick calculation on back of the cigarette packet, and if I allow staff 15 minutes a day between those dates from the beginning of December to the end of March, at an average £10 an hour, that's over £300 a go. And given we normally have more staff than beds, we're going to spend that on staff costs just taking the test, let alone anything else. Yeah, not exactly generous. that's for sure. Yeah.
I just wondered, are you actually paying everybody to have the test then, Robin?
That's the assumption.
Okay.
Has Jeffrey, is that an old hand? Well, you know,
Sorry, yes, I beg your pardon. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even get rid of it. Oh, there we go. Is it? Yeah, it was an old hand. I am an old hand.
I didn't quite mean it that way, but Lucy?
I'm sorry I was late, everyone. I was just going to, I don't know whether we've talked much about enabling a competency test to allow the LFDs at home, but I have taken that decision because I think our staff are already doing enough and coming in and doing above and beyond, and then for us to then facilitate somehow for us to do external LFD testing off-site or on-site, but not in the main building. So we've done extensive training with all of them, signed off their competency and given them a box to take home. And the derogation of the MHRA seems fairly clear on that. It's just that they haven't really come back about the whether or not it's okay for private care homes, but I'm just taking that hit. My risk assessment is fairly robust, and I just feel, you know, it's a reasonable risk to ask staff to be doing it at home, so that I can keep my staff. I can't keep asking them to come in another half hour before their shift as it is, and then sit in a cold motorhome and queue up in the rain. And I feel quite strongly about that now. And so far the girls have been amazing, taken on the LFDs. They've passed the competency test with flying colours, and I'm awaiting the CQC to come back and say you're a bad girl, Lucy. But I can't afford to pay them an extra half an hour shift, not even with the grant. And I feel for their mental health, I feel like we've asked them enough to do in the last 10 months.
Can I come in on that one, Lucy? We've decided that we're going to test the staff when they're actually in on shift on the second test. They come in for the PCR and the LFD at the beginning of the week. The end of the week ones we will do when they're actually in. So we're not expecting them to come in half an hour or quarter of an hour early to do the tests.
I get that, Eddie, but if you get one positive LFD test, you take out the whole shift, and I can't risk that. So if they're doing it at home and they get a positive LFD test, they've got a PCR test they can then do and send home. And I have only affected one family. I've not affected my entire team of 6 or 7 staff.
Yeah, I accept that point. But with PPE, they wouldn't take out the shift.
Well, Eddie,
they might.
Can I just say, I think they might. I think that the general thinking going around the blocks at the moment is that all of our defences of hand washing and PPE is not good enough to contain the latest mutation of the virus. And there was on the CAA webinar this morning, and I've put a note on it on the WhatsApp group. There was a care home in Hereford that took back a resident from a trip to the hospital, and it was short-lived and came straight back. And that was the only person to show signs, but within a short period of time, half the residents in the home have died, and everybody was positive, and they're absolutely devastated and thinking that we did all the right things. PPE, hand washing, we've been really strict, it's a good home, outstanding home, etc., etc. So I kind of think there's a lot of fright out there as to the way the virus is being spread, and I think there's more questions than there are answers, to be honest. Bit sobering, but sorry.
I accept that, but then just to extend that, are we going to test all our staff every day before they come into shift if we can get them to do the tests at home?
There is actually talk about, there's debate about that going on within the Department of Health, I believe. But what the hell is going to happen, and if there are enough test kits? I mean, you know, I heard somewhere, I can't remember which webinar it was now, when some guidance was flashed up and it said, you know, if you're concerned, use LFD tests, but if you think you're going to be short, well, you'll have to eke it out and wait for your next lot to rise. So the whole thing is a complete and utter nonsense, and whatever course you embark upon, it seems to be fraught to fall apart because of a lack of supplies and chaos. So I kind of think, down if we do, down if we don't.
Yeah, great.
Robin?
Yeah, just picking up on Jeffrey's point about supply of LFDs. At the moment, we've been okay, but I just wondered if in the chat bar, anybody who's experienced shortages of LFDs can just let that be known, so as we can feed that back into the system about supply of LFDs. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Has anyone received a second?
And I don't know how to pull the hand up. So sorry, Joe, but
That's all right.
yeah, we had a COVID positive 14 days ago now on the PCR. So obviously I went through all the appropriate protocols and told everybody. And those protocols say that obviously if you have a positive COVID, you've got to test everyone that comes on shift for 7 days. And so we weren't going to have enough lateral flow tests. So I dialed the 119 number, and within 48 hours, I had 300 lateral flow test kits arrive. So, and I've been told that my next consignment will be here next week as well. So I'm not seeing any shortages at all.
Okay.
All right. And we're doing, I can't remember who it was, but we're actually testing when they come on shift. So every time they come on shift, if they've been away from work for more than 2 days, so if it's 2 days away, so they don't work the weekend, we test them every Monday, and then we test twice again over the course of the week. So that's our interpretation of it. And like I said, we're doing it on site when they come on shift. But I'm also of the opinion that we're hoping the PPE is doing its job. We've had 2 confirmed COVIDs on PCRs. No one else has got it in the house. So the PPE must be doing, and the infection control must be doing its job. If the next variant takes it to a different level, then obviously we're going to need appropriate guidance. But at the moment, it's working.
Can I just chip in with something else? And it was a very intense discussion with the Care Association Alliance this morning, and there's lots of worry about outbreaks having occurred since the vaccinations were done, and somebody afterwards posted an article in the British Medical Journal saying that in Norway they're trying to conduct some research to establish what has been the link between something like 400 residents in an area having had the vaccination and something like 23 having died within 48 hours. And it's not necessarily that they have contracted COVID because of the vaccine. I think the thing is that's not the case, but that the impact of the vaccine has been so intense that it's sufficient to put very frail people over the edge. And we've had I wouldn't say it's unexpected to death. It wasn't unexpected insofar as this lady who's been frail for 10 years with us and has nearly got past many times, but it wasn't necessarily otherwise expected, but not surprised. But she passed away within a couple of days of the vaccine, and we're thinking, oh Jesus Christ! How could that have occurred? And we don't really. I don't think anybody's going to know. I don't think we'll ever will know. But that they're certainly doing some research on it in Norway, and they're a bit worried. And so there's been too many stories going around for it just to be speculation and fear mongering. So I think with the most frail, it's a bit of a worry. But I don't know if we have a strategy as to what to do or what not to do, except go along with the flow. But there's just been these concerns flagged up. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Robin, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to pick up on Jeffrey's point, I'd be very interested in people's observations on how people have reacted to the vaccine. We've had one home which was vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine, and relatively minimal reaction from residents and the few staff that obtained the vaccination. We've also had other locations which have been vaccinated with the Oxford version, and we've seen far more reaction, both in residents and in staff to that. Most common sort of, I think we'd describe it as a sort of after effects of a flu jab type of scenario. But I'd be very interested in others' experience at the moment.
Well, let me just say then, just to add on that, Robin, that the vaccination in our Exeter home, and we did have the unexpected death. It may be linked, it may not be. That was the Oxford vaccine, and the investigations are going on in Norway related to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. So I think there's stories both sides.
Yeah, so this was sort of next on the agenda to talk about the vaccinations, because there have been reports of people that have had the Oxford vaccine, especially amongst the staff, having reactions to it. Our staff, 10 of them were vaccinated on Saturday, along with all the residents, and 4 out of the 10 had reactions to the point where we had to send them home. And as far as I understand, the MRHA are asking that we report these via the yellow card system. So if anyone does have a reaction to the vaccine, it's good to report it. But
Joe, can I ask, how does the yellow card system work?
So there is a link, and sorry, I haven't got it, but I will send it around. There is a link where you just follow the instructions. They ask for your name and various details about it. There is one specifically for the COVID vaccines, and you just report what the symptoms are. And then I guess they're collating all the data from that. But certainly with the Pfizer vaccine, which most of my staff had, there were no side effects. So I think a couple of them are a little bit reluctant to have their second dose of the Oxford now, but hopefully it hasn't put them off. Has anyone else experienced the same sort of difference between the two vaccines?
Well, just one reverse comment to say the other way around is that a homeowner who we probably mostly know but don't want to breach any confidentialities is had virtually a complete home outbreak, but residents had been vaccinated before Christmas, or before New Year, one of the two, I can't remember which. And the belief is that there has been a high 100% rate of survival because the vaccine was having positive effect. Whether this is all exact science or not, we can only speculate, but that's an opinion from someone who is a trained person anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of maybe more positive news than some of the things I've been saying.
Yeah, that's thanks for sharing that, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Lucy?
Yeah, I was just going to add to the discussion really in that both Nick, my husband, and I had quite a severe reaction to the Pfizer one, which was interesting, kind of heart palpitations and raised arm. And this was a week after the actual injection. Lots of our staff reported feeling very nauseous. They all tipped up to work though, so fair dues. But they felt quite nauseous and quite sort of poorly in their tummy for a couple of days. And in contrast, our residents haven't had any reaction at all, which has been interesting. But all I was going to comment on is the irony of it all, because actually, having read all the science and listened to the microbiologist from Vaxport, I was very up for getting the Oxford, and now I've heard the stories this last week about Oxford. I'm quite glad I didn't get it and I got the Pfizer. So, who knows?
It's more effective as well, the Pfizer vaccine, isn't it? Allegedly. So
but I did feel rough. It was quite interesting. But I didn't say very much because I didn't want to put anyone off.
Oh, Kate's just put on the link for the yellow card reporting. Thank you. Okay, so has anyone got anything else to say on vaccines, or should we move on? Oh, Lorna's got her hand up.
Yeah, I'm just curious. We still haven't had the vaccines for the residents. Most of our staff were done at the RD&E. And I'm just curious how many people are still waiting and whether we're right at the tail end. Have other people, are other people still waiting?
We're booked in this Friday. So we've had 50% of the residents done and 60% of the staff. And we're booked in this Friday to finish it off. And I've got to take 2 members of staff. I'll rephrase that. I don't have to. I've offered to take 2 members of staff because they've got to have theirs administered in hospital because they both carry EpiPens for anaphylactic shock from various things like peanuts or bee stings and so on. So we will be finished this Friday.
Have you not heard anything, Lorna?
Well, in theory, we're going to be done next week. But originally it was this, it just keeps being pushed back. And it was then going to be Tuesday next week. And now it looks like it might be the end of next week, which is kind of heading quite close to the end of January. So I'm just curious. So we come under Mid-Devon, and Joe, you've had, yours has been done.
Yeah, because that's under
I'm just curious, is it sorry?
You fall under Eastern as well, don't you?
Yeah, Eastern area, but yeah, Eastern area under Mid-Devon County, yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anyone
we've got other people
Just
in the area. No.
I'm just
So,
going to post a link to a Guardian article,
Yeah.
and this was shared on Tuesday from a chap called Peter, who works with the London Care Associations Forum, and the Guardian article, which I'm just posting a link to, says 6 out of 10 care homes had not received the COVID vaccination. That was Tuesday, so
I know last week on one of the Devon calls, over 50% had been done by the end of last week, or by Thursday last week. Care home forum.
yeah, stories differ
This
according to
seems-
what you read and who you listen.
Thank
yeah,
you.
Bit of fake news going around this.
Robin?
yeah. So I've been trying to chase this up because it seems that the approach across Devon has been fragmented by area, and some areas have chosen where the GPs have gone in and vaccinated the whole home, staff and residents in one go. Whereas other areas, and this has impacted on ourselves, we're predominantly in South Devon, and the GPs have really only been arriving with sufficient vaccine to vaccinate the residents, and have taken the approach that the staff will get their vaccine elsewhere. Now, that's not in accordance with the national guidance, and I've been trying hard to get some attention to this, because I don't really want staff having to use public transport or whatever to get to a vaccination centre. So I don't know if others have experienced a similar sort of arrangement.
Yeah, so I'm based in Sidmouth. I'm not sure where you're based.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically we were told at the beginning, we're due to have our vaccinations on Friday at 9, and we were told at the beginning of the week that our staff would have to travel to the RD&E or the Exmouth Tennis Centre to get their vaccinations, due to the stock rotation and where they're storing the vaccines. However, a couple days ago, I just got informed that they're going to do the whole staff as well as the residents. So you might have some more information soon, because I think they're realising that it's not fair for the staff. So I think they might maybe get in touch with you. I don't know.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tabitha.
And can I carry on for a second, Joe? Sorry.
Yeah.
I was again just interested how people were getting on in terms of agreement, consent from staff members to receive the vaccine, and whether homes were experiencing a situation where some people, whether due to social media or whatever, are currently choosing to decline the vaccine. I know we have a handful out of our 80-odd staff that are currently declining, and we're trying hard to speak with them one by one and convince them that having the vaccine is the right way forward. But I'd just be interested in others' experience in this area.
I don't know the age group of your staff, Robin, the ones that are refusing, but we had about 10 people out of 40, which was quite a lot, refuse to have the vaccine, or they didn't give their consent. Most of the 6 of them are quite young, and they were concerned about because there was a rumour going around about it affecting fertility and that sort of thing. Luckily for me, they're all smokers, so I printed off some information about how smoking can affect fertility, and funnily enough, that changed their mind. So they've all had it now.
Can I just chip in? So of 4 homes in our Seaton home, and 100% of the staff and residents have had the vaccination. In our Exeter home, 1 member of staff declined, and 1 resident didn't have the vaccination because they were so agitated every time the vaccinated got near that it was actually impossible. So that was the only reason. In our Dawlish home, it's been 100% of staff and 100% of residents as well, including one who was, I'm never going to have the vaccine. Plymouth, we haven't had much success with the vaccine yet, so a few have gone to Derriford. I believe there are 3 staff who all are of different ethnicity who have particular fears, and we're working on those. But otherwise, it's all consent so far, or agreements rather than actual puts to the test, because there's no vaccination on offer yet. But 3 are looking like they're not going to. That's it.
We have we're much the same. We've almost 100% of those that can have it. We have several people who are contraindicated or pregnant or looking to be pregnant in the immediate future. But if you take those out, then we're pretty much at 100% of staff. Residents, funnily, we haven't had any yet because they haven't turned up. So we're a bit. Hopefully, we've had nobody saying they won't have it though.
No.
Just one other point. We were told we needed to seek consent for our residents, so we downloaded the forms to say that they were capable of making an informed choice. But when they came in, they didn't require when they came in to give the jabs, they didn't require the consent form. So they're literally just for our evidence. The vaccination team don't scan or take anything away. So it's just for yourselves.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Has anyone else got anything on vaccines that they'd like to share? No. So even though it's hard to think that there is life beyond COVID, we would like to start thinking about our sharing best practice sessions for the next 12 months. We want to make them relevant for everyone, so it would be really interesting for us if you could give us some ideas of any areas that you would find interesting for us to cover over the next 12 months. So if you have got any ideas, please let us know. I think, Lucy, have you got some sort of ideas on this as well?
Yeah, I've put a few together from some of the things that come up on the WhatsApp group and other things that sort of come up. It might be nice if, I don't know, I can see 2 pages of people. So, but I just thought if I rattle through a few and just wave at the screen if you're interested. I don't know, Izzy, if you could watch page 2 and I look at page 1. I don't know, it might be different for all of us, but insurance seems to loom occasionally. Whether, I mean, we can work out the time frame of this, but whether anybody be interested in somebody talking about insurance. Obviously, COVID's affecting some of the things, so got at least 1 thumbs up. Thank you, Eddie. So, and 2, yeah, okay. So we'll say yes. We'll try it. And again, if you can think of anyone that would be a particularly good guest on this, please let us know. You can email us at DCHE, because I think, you know, or if you meet somebody that's interesting and you think, God, I wish that somebody could listen more to them. You know, it's nice to have these inspirational characters in our lives, isn't it? I looked a little bit about activities. Obviously, as we go into COVID activities or COVID safe activities is something that we're probably all quite established at, but there's nothing like a refresher every now and then. So I wondered about sort of doing a little session on sort of sharing good practice of activities, sharing ideas. And I thought equally going into the summer, we could even do a gardening activities or sensory gardens and talking about experiences we've had about gardening within homes. I don't know whether any reaction on that, on the gardening side of that. Not bothered. Don't mind if not. Activities seem to get a bit of a
activities
though. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, activities,
yeah, fine. Connectivity, that age-old beautiful thing that we don't seem to have in all our various unique homes and setups that we have. So connectivity is one, and obviously IT security. I know, Lorna, you've been looking at that a little bit. So whether or not anybody's interested in looking at sort of how to improve connectivity, what sorts of devices might work for certain scenarios, different apps. I think sometimes there are certain, and again, we're quite unique, aren't we, in the way that we all do various things, but we might be able to just have a pool of resources of sort of, you know, did you know that there is this app or that app or whatever. So that seemed to be another one. End of life care, again, a little bit more specialised, but certainly that seems to be one that we come across up here. And I put a few bids into people like sort of gerontologists and things and see whether or not anybody. Jeffrey, you are on fire. So funding, funding always comes up. We could do, yep, I will. That's a lovely one. Trusted assessors. I'm so surprised to hear that one from you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Just quick.
Yes, it's just, you know, I'm surprised. Trusted assessors, collaboration, which is kind of at the heart of what we do anyway. PR. Anybody interested in doing something about PR? Anybody struggle with PR? Anybody struggle with media requests, things like that? Marketing? Yeah.
Not interested.
I don't know why. You'd be beautiful on the television, Nick.
What I would say, so just all the periodic stuff we have to do, as in the NOLA lift certificates, the firefighting equipment, and all these things, and some of the external training that we have trainers come in, i.e. the first aid, manual handling, the food hygiene. All these things have obviously stopped and it's all been done online. But there are certain things you have to allow to come into the house, and obviously we've been told to lateral flow test these people, like the chiropodist and all the rest of it. But obviously they're only 50% accurate, and they're only accurate if the person's got raging COVID, because it measures viral load. It doesn't measure infection. We could do with certainly having one of our more nearer to now future date meetings that certainly cover those aspects for me, because that's probably my biggest area of concern at the moment.
So things like the mandatory things we normally do in a normal sort of year-on-year life, and how we manage to do that in a COVID secure way. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
Nick?
because obviously what is glaringly obvious is that this new strain of this virus is not very nice. And it's running rife, as Jeffrey pointed out, in some homes, even though we're doing all the right things. So it's the interpretation of how it's changing and how we're going to make that work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I've taken that. That's brilliant. The other thought I had, as a fairly new manager, is maybe setting up some sort of peer mentoring. We've talked about that before, but whether or not anybody interested in doing something like that. So a more established manager takes somebody under their wing. If that would be of interest, if you could think of any way we might be able to do that. Yeah. Audits, Louise has put up. Anybody interested in audits? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I mean, it literally is. It's your forum, so it's worth, you know, if you think of anything. And we're
sorry,
Joe.
There's a note here. Hospital discharges.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that one up, and I've flagged it to back to the NHS. They recognise it is an issue. It's in terms of that interaction of discharge from hospital to home. They're very keen to work on it. I've suggested that it may well be worth considering having some form of app available so that hospital, care home and healthcare professionals can access the relevant information, meds, etc., to facilitate a safe discharge. So that it's pet subject with me, and keen to make some improvement in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank you.
A couple of other ones I've just written down: nutrition, or you know, decent food. Went to a couple of lovely conferences before all of the lockdown, and that was really inspiring. Would anybody be interested in anything like that? Sort of, yeah.
Would that cover hydration as well?
Oh yeah, could do, absolutely. And dysphagia is another one. I mean, but that might be more specialised, but it might be something we can work into as a kind of an umbrella of nutrition and physical activity. I think sort of things like strength and balance and keeping people active and moving. The evidence behind doing strength training for the very old is actually very, very strong. No pun intended there, but you know, we should be doing more to increase the muscle mass in all of us, actually. I think every single person here, I'm sorry to say, is over 35, and you are all losing your muscle mass, as we say, as we sit here. So I'm quite keen on this, as you can tell. So I wouldn't mind doing something a bit on physical activity and strength and balance. If anybody else was interested in that. Training initiatives has come up, but I think that training certainly seems to be something, and keeping people inspired and interested, particularly when they're doing, you know, 12-hour shifts in PPE. And the only other thing I did wonder is things like care plans, taking care plans online, talking about how that's worked. Some people work in paper, some people are very keen on certain bits of software. Is anyone interested in that sort of thing or not? Yeah. Okay. So on all of those topics, and I can put them all on the WhatsApp or somewhere for people to look at, but if you had anybody you thought might make a good guest, either 5-10 minute presentation or just a kind of conversation about things, we'd be keen to hear, because, you know, this is about showing best practice. Taking holidays after COVID, should we just do one about travel?
Yeah.
Should we just do one enormous sort of brain dump on all the places we'd like to go to?
Exactly, yeah.
That'd be amazing. Oral hygiene's a great one. Oral hygiene is a really good one, because obviously CQC is really keen on all of that, so I've put that one in. CQC inspections, Joe did a great one on that recently, but really happy to keep that one ticking over, because that's pertinent always, isn't it? And Rebecca Archer, yes, you can be added to the WhatsApp group. I'll need your number, but I'll put my email address in there, Rebecca, and you can. Anyway, that's me done, I think, Joe, unless anybody else got anything very exciting to say about.
No, I think that's really good. I think we've got plenty to take away and see what we can work on for the next 12 months. So the next one is in February, and I can't remember the date, but I know it will go out in the next couple of weeks. So we will let you know what we cover in the next session. Is there anything else that anyone would like to cover? No?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Jane.
I think if anybody has anything particular for February that they'd like to talk about, we're planning it now. So, you know, if anything feels very pertinent, please say, because we'll be hitting the planning sort of more or less straight after this meeting. So if you feel anything particularly pressing, please let us know. Lorna, did you want to say something?
I know one of the thoughts for February was around some digital stuff, cybersecurity, because the NHS is going to be quite a big project that we're going to be involved in. So we could do maybe part of it on that. And there is somebody who's prepared to talk, if that would be of interest. But if there are other topics that are perhaps hotter topics, it wouldn't be a problem to push that back a month.
Okay.
I think we need to leave it fairly open, because obviously, hopefully, by the time that meeting takes place, we've all been vaccinated. But also, you want to see how this COVID pandemic pans out, because there's obviously massive changes in the last 4 weeks, isn't there?
Yeah, everything's
changing
so quickly.
Yeah, you'll have booked your holiday, Nick. Anyway, we probably won't see you.
Yeah, Robin and I go play golf in Turkey.
Oh.
And you can pull me out of the bushes again, drunk as a skunk.
Don't go there.
What a thought.
Oh, right, well, I think that's it for today, but thank you everyone for coming and contributing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one in February.
Awesome.
Well done. Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, thanks very much, Joe.
Bye.